Persona 3 Reload sold 1 million copies worldwide within its first week, becoming the fastest selling game in Atlus history. That is quote for quote from the Atlus West Twitter account. Persona 3 Reload is off to a fiery rocket start, selling even faster than Persona 5. Do you all have any comprehension how much they are about to milk P3 at this point? It's going to be otherworldly. But let's take a second, take a step back and analyze why maybe Persona 3 Reload is the fastest selling game in Atlus's history. Well, I think it's for a couple of reasons. One, Persona as an IP is only going up and up and gaining even more notoriety and just acclaim on the whole. It's a series that can be really hard to get into because, well, when you describe the game, go get a job, hang out with imaginary friends, study for exams, save the world from death itself. Like, some of those things sound more interesting than others, right? Like that one Conan O'Brien skit from a while back still rings true. But also, Persona's just a really good game. And rarely does it ever miss, if ever. And after years and years of Atlus throwing a bunch of love and acclaim at Persona 5, they're finally branching back to, well, one of their earlier games with Persona 3 Reload, with a striking aesthetic, really dark tone and atmosphere, and overall, a more macabre twist than what a lot of more modern Persona fans may be accustomed to. And I think you could argue that the aesthetic of Persona 3 is really appealing to a lot of people, and the soundtrack is a banger. But I think most of all, I think Persona 3 Reload is really benefiting from the buildup of support Persona has gotten over the years. Persona 4 Golden is a little bit aged, but on the whole, it is a game that stands the test of time, and is available on pretty much every console. Persona 5 Royal is really the polish that P5 needed, and is the most palatable game in the franchise before Reload, at least, for a lot of people based on its aesthetic and overall gameplay tendencies. In comes Reload, which takes a game that aged and wasn't really ported to any real modern device, I don't count portable to this, seemingly improves on nearly every aspect of it. The music is a banger as ever, but also there's a new twist to it, revamping the gameplay itself, as well as Tartarus. It's just seemingly improving on every aspect that held P3 back in the common eye for so long, to where the perception going into Reload was that those things that were weaknesses for so long for the common zeitgeist of Persona fans no longer were weaknesses, but now strengths. So I think it's a little bit of the stars aligning in a lot of ways, where you have a franchise that's ever gaining popularity, that is also now going back to one of its roots for this more modern Persona era, with P3, improving on that formula and advertising it well, while also releasing multi-platform. Like, let's not try and gloss over that. It's easier to sell more copies when you're just simply available to more players. But I also don't think that should detract from the argument going in terms of Persona 3 Reload's favor. I've played a little bit of it, but I've loved every second that I've played of it so far. But I also want to take a little bit of a step back, because companies care about stuff like this. One, I don't see Persona not being multi-platform going into the future, unless Sony really wants to throw dummy amounts of money at it, which I still don't see, as Xbox was heavily associated with Reload. They didn't get exclusivity, but it was on Game Pass. But remember, this is fastest selling game in Atlus's history, according to Atlus. Game Pass isn't selling. That's separate. Unless they really worded this poorly, which I don't think they did. I don't see Persona or Atlus being part of this, like, exclusive market anymore. I think they're done with that, and they have found their wings truly in multi-platform and being more third-party, while also, like, snuggling up to Xbox a little bit with Game Pass. And I imagine we will continue to see Persona 3 Reload sales continue to climb, especially if those rumors about a possible Nintendo port for the next console come to pass. And I imagine this game will continue to sell. I'm playing it on Game Pass right now, but down the line, I'll probably just end up buying the thing on Steam. And I think this is putting Atlus in an excellent position to really springboard off the success going into whatever the next game is, and if that is Persona 6 or not. They still have Metaphor ReFantazio at the end of the year, don't forget that. Atlus isn't done for this year. And you have two big experiments going on with Atlus. so far. You have a return to form and a return to the classics for Atlus with Persona 3 Reload, engaging interest, there seems to be a lot of it, but you also have trying to branch out and do something new with new IP, which is Metaphor ReFantasio, which we'll have to wait and see on. Now, the lessons to learn from this will be interesting. I think one of the things that makes Persona just a really fun franchise is the value proposition to the consumer. In a lot of ways, while there is, yes, a lot of DLC for it, most people don't care about it, let's be honest. You get a lot of bang for your buck here. And even despite the fact that it's $70 here, that will be an argument against it for some people, but I think a lot of people will just say, yeah, but it's like going to be 100 hours plus, if that. That's still really good value. That's hard to argue against. There's no microtransactions shop or anything like that. There's just a bunch of DLC for like DLC personas, which are powered, to be fair, but it's a single player game. A lot of people just simply won't care about that. And for me, even if I had the DLC, which I don't, I wouldn't use it because it would take the fun out of the challenge for the game. I'm playing the game on the hardest difficulty. I'm playing on Merciless because I want that challenge. So while I don't think Atlus is like the best in the business when it comes to consumer practices, they are far, far, far from the worst. And there's a lot of hype in the air right now for Persona and the direction that it can go in the future, especially when it comes to Persona 6. And it just seems like every new release for these mainline games, which I will count Reload as, Atlus just continues to improve the overarching formula for Persona to make it more palatable, interesting, and consistently entertaining. Reload seems to be a nexus of all these lessons learned from the past coalescing into this one singular game. And while I am sure that it being multi-platform is a big reason for it to be the fastest Atlus selling game of all time, especially when compared to P5 and P5 Royal, I don't think it's the only reason. It's a big chunk of the pie, but it's not the only slice. And we're already seeing a bevy of rumors going around now about what Atlus is going to do in the future, whether they can bring back P1, P2, or P4 in some capacity. I made a video not too long ago about that, and 4 days later, all these rumors start to come out. Which, not gonna lie, I had a little bit of a laugh at that. But I think Persona 3 Reload on the whole is just lessons learned from the past. How do we make Persona 3 a game with a brilliant aesthetic and draw more appealing and more consistently high quality, and to fix the pacing issues? Well, let's go about doing that. Let's up the visuals, make it multi-platform, move away from exclusivity, and after release after release after release of these high-quality mainline games, that builds trust and that builds anticipation for the next game. Sure, Persona 5 Tactica may not have been everyone's cup of tea, but it was hardly, or can hardly be considered a mainline entry. When you go from Persona 4 Golden, in whatever order this actually ends up being, by the way, Persona 4 Golden, Persona 4 Arena, Persona 4 Arena Ultimax, Persona 5, Persona 5 Royal, and now Persona 3 Reload, that builds trust. That builds anticipation, because you're consistently putting out a good product. And Reload, in a lot of ways, not every way, but in a lot of ways, felt like they were trying to capture the spirit of Persona 3. Take what was before, don't take away from it, on the whole, or mostly, but simply add to it. There's a few changes that I'm sure not everyone's a fan of, like limiting what clubs you can join, but the overarching story remains the same to my knowledge. Let's add more events, more things that people care about and like and have come to appreciate from modern Persona games. Let's add some of that in to base Persona 3 with Reload and bolster the value proposition on offer there. Give you more things to do, not less, and not to take away from. There's a few exceptions here, but on the whole, I tend to find that this tracks. Persona is a game in a series that on often of a basis is able to weave between the wild and wacky fun social simulator aspects alongside the more dark macabre or emotional storytelling led by a great cast of characters. And when one of the biggest marketing pushes for Reload is, hey, you know this cast everyone already loved? Yeah, we're gonna add even more things to the game to make you love them even more. Like, you know the audience. It's as simple as that. You know what the audience is, or who the audience are, you know what they want, and you're willing to give them what they want. It's a really simple algorithm that a lot of people mess up. But Atlus, at least mostly, seems to nail. Oh hey, maybe people on other consoles besides the freaking Vita, or the PSP, or the PlayStation want to play Persona games. Let's be multi-platform. Let's be on Xbox. Let's be on PC. For some of the other releases, let's be on Nintendo. And I imagine when the next Nintendo console comes around, they'll be like, hey, let's put Reload onto this thing as well. It's a lesson that I've wanted Final Fantasy to learn for so long, and they're still so wishy-washy about it, but that's a video for another day. Yeah, you can make the argument and try and dismiss Persona 3 Reload's success because it's simply multi-platform or whatever, but Atlus put themselves in this position to succeed. And that's what you're supposed to do. And people want this game. I wanted this game. I've wanted a remake for Persona 3 for years. And I've wanted these exact changes that they put into Reload for years. Is it any wonder why there's a lot of excitement for this game? When more people than ever are able to play it, and they make a bunch of changes that people en masse have wanted for so long? That's a little bit anecdotal on my part, I admit. But I imagine more scenarios to interact with the members of SEAS, and a revamp of Tartarus, and some more things to do, were things that a lot of people wanted, and that's what Reload gives you. Is it any wonder that this game is doing well? I don't think it is. And with that, I think I'll call the video there for the day. Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. Why do I always get hiccups at the end of these videos? Thank you all for tuning in. My pleasure for making the video. If you enjoyed it, please leave a comment down below with how you have been enjoying Persona 3 Reload. And have you played Persona 3 before in some capacity? Or is this your first delve into Persona 3 and the members of SEAS? I'd love to hear your thoughts, hear your perspectives, and to hear your stories. And let me know how you've been liking the game. And let me know if you agree or disagree with me. I love conversation. Let me know and let me see it down in the comments down below. Thank you all for tuning in. Leave a like and subscribe, and hit the bell icon to be notified when I upload and stream in the future. Stay safe, have a great day, and I'll see you all next time. Bye-bye, everybody. Until we meet again.